What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, and this is the Wolf of Wall Street's podcast. When crypto traders think of technical analysis, one platform immediately comes to mind, TradingView. What you may not know is that it's actually the 125th largest website in the entire world. Behind the massive success of this fascinating company is today's guest, Pierce Crosby, TradingView's general manager. Pierce found his way to TradingView through an unconventional career path, including radio, writing, social networking, and investing. The common denominator for Pierce and TradingView that I look forward to exploring is their fascination and curiosity with markets, along with how a successful community is built. Pierce, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Long time. Thanks, Scott.
So before we get into the questions, once again, you are listening to the Wolf of Wall Street's podcast. We're here 2 times every single week. I talk to your favorite personalities from the worlds of Bitcoin finance, trading, art, music, sports, and politics. And this show is powered by Blockworks Group, a media company with over 20 podcasts in their network. You can check them out at blockworksgroup.io. And if you like the podcast and follow me on Twitter, then you should check out my website, join my newsletter, check out my YouTube, doing a lot of things. You can find all of that at thewolfofwallstreets.io. Now that we're done with all of that. So, man, I heard that you have a very special relationship with Memecoin that I would really like to explore. I have a special relationship with the original Memecoin, which is Doge. Like, it's my favorite thing I've ever traded in history. I call it my favorite asset of all time because it's so dumb and so profitable and so easy to trade. So I'd love to hear your Memecoin story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great one. And again, thanks for having me. And I'm a big fan of the show. I listen every week, and
awesome.
Broadly speaking, the candidness of the interviews is the best thing about it. You know, I think a lot of people are super formal on these things, but I think the more, weird random stories you can get into, it's the best way to learn, how some of the things are.
I appreciate that. So I've heard you're the king of weird random stories. Yeah. and B, it's actually an evolution, I think, of a podcast. When I started, it was very formal and I had my questions in advance. I knew exactly. And then I sort of threw that all out the window one day and started just having conversations. So I'm glad that that's being reflected, but I would love to hear about your relationship with Memecoin.
So Jordan Leal's one of the teams at Consensus, and I guess he does biz dev, corp dev for them. He built a landing page on a random Friday that was basically a coin generator, and the idea being is you could quickly use this piece of code and generate a new coin and ship it immediately. This was basically during the heat of the summer, and we had this huge explosion of DeFi and the whole DeFi movement. So everybody's staking, everybody's looking to leverage their staking by doing, other kind of, loan opportunities on top of, different coins and chains. And so I basically was sent a Telegram channel, which was Jordan's, that he set up on a Friday. And quickly the platform had actually been completely co-opted by a bunch of developers. And it was a joke in the first place, right? So there was no actual code that could build, coins right out the gate. But a developer in the channel actually said, well, I can just build one right now if you guys want. And within 20 to 30 minutes, he had basically sent out a listserv. So you could put in your Ethereum address, and more or less he airdropped everybody 300 Memecoin out of the blue. And it cost him something like, $120 or something like that.
Yeah.
Of which he, sold it back to pay his costs. And so all of a sudden, everybody that had been randomly invited to this Telegram channel had 300 Memecoin. And, this is a Friday night. I think the timing was around, I was over in California at the time. It was probably like 7 p.m. And somehow, how it works on the weekends with crypto. So all of a sudden, there's 1,000 people in the chat room. And it's really just growing in real time. So a couple people started building memes, literally jokes on the joke. It was kind of like memeception. It was hilarious. Next thing you know, people are asking, where can they buy? How can they buy? And the whole joke was don't buy meme. This is a joke.
And wasn't that actually the web address or something? It was don'tbuymeme.com or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that all came later. This was literally just organic. They were just this is stupid. Let's do something ridiculous. And next thing you know, right, we were sitting on $100, and then all of a sudden it's $1,000, and all of a sudden it's, at the peak, I think meme got up to 1,200 per coin or something like that. by the time, I'd actually sold most of it. And so I was just watching it. And, but absolutely incredible. And really just, completely shell shocked me it's very like reminiscent of the ICO days, but,
oh, you mean when you have nothing and it turns into $360,000 overnight? Yes, that sounds reminiscent of a certain thing.
That's exactly what it was. If I had held to the actual absolute peak, it would be 360 just straight out the gate. And the best part about it was that it was equally distributed, so you didn't have whales. So everybody had 300, and so it was like a perfectly distributed ledger. It was really awesome. But yeah. Anyways, that's my story about me. It's a fantastic one, and Jordan's amazing too. I mean, it's amazing.
That is so 2020, and so summer of 2020, and so DeFi boom and bubble of 2020 is that you can create something that's literally nothing and make money out of that. I don't know what that says about this space.
Yeah,
it's a fun experiment. But can you imagine a meme stock getting listed on like NASDAQ that did nothing and everyone got the money for free?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, but now they've pivoted to be like the coin for the art world. So I mean,
that's
I know
NFT. Yeah.
We talked to Blau the other day, and it's pretty interesting to hear like that intersection of art, music, and culture. And like the meme culture is now kind of being pushed into the art culture in a way. And if they can be like the underlying, coin for NFT projects, it's pretty cool.
Well, it's awesome that they found a real use case so that it doesn't literally go to zero while some people are holding it. And NFT is a whole other conversation that I love. And I had Blau obviously on the podcast. He's a friend, and had an incredible conversation about that. So I want to like pivot a bit just into TradingView. I was actually really shocked when I read doing research that it was the 125th largest website in the world. Not that I didn't think you guys were huge, but that's massive. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's massive. Why is that? Because there's not that many traders on the planet, are there? Or maybe there are. Maybe I'm mistaken. I just kind of felt like traders were a small insular community, certainly not enough to, drive more traffic than some of the biggest websites in the world. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it shocks me a little bit every day when I look at that number. Broadly speaking, it comes down to your frame of reference. And I mean, you and I both sit here I guess you're still in the US, right? You're not over in the Caymans yet.
I've been. So if not for COVID and having a baby.
So broadly speaking, like your frame of reference in the US is that there's about 40 million people who have something invested. So meaning, they have stocks or they have a 401k or something like that. So, I mean, from that like lens, you got to think about, okay, well, how many of these people actually are internet savvy? A small fraction of that. And how many of them are actually active traders, right? The small fraction of that. So you're looking at like a couple million users, and it's like, all right, well, how do you build a business around that? And well, you got to zoom out and actually think, okay, we're actually a global platform. And for those who don't know, there's TradingView.com, but there's also TradingView China, there's TradingView Japan, there's TradingView Portuguese, Spanish. And so we have about 25 different language versions that all operate independent of each other. And so while TradingView.com has kind of grown over time, mostly with the audience in the US and the UK, we've had these huge explosions of traffic around the world for places that basically don't have any comparable access to technology. I mean, in the US, we're probably the most advanced in terms of, financial tech and availability. And, this is like the 90s boom of the E-trades of the world and what have you. There's always been technology here to invest. But technology in, say, Brazil is very, very kind of uncommon in terms of like the scale of data you can get, the scale of charting you can get, visualizations you can get. And so we were kind of going from 0 to 1 in a lot of these countries where they really had nothing. Right. We're bringing kind of the scale and expertise that we built here in the US to these markets that basically were just like shell shocked by what they could get. And as you know, I mean, 80% of the product is free, right? So you get so much information and not even pay $1. People were just clamoring to it all over the place. So US is still our largest business and probably about 40% of the total, but that means 60% of that is international and growing at an insanely fast pace. So, like India wasn't even our top 10 country last year. India's now number 2 for us.
Wow.
And really, it's still tiny. I mean, it's really just getting started. So,
a few billion people over there.
Yeah, exactly. And the same goes for China. I mean, we've really barely even scratched the surface in China. But for those who know kind of traditional equity markets, China's a very gambling culture, or, very interested in kind of this active investing lifestyle. And, that translates to places like Macau and places like Singapore and Hong Kong. We've barely gotten started there. And so, if you really use that as your frame of reference, the total addressable is going to be in the millions of millions, rather than, maxing out at 5 million investors in the US or something like that. And so that's really the story, I think, of how we got to 125. But to be clear, even last year, we were about 300. So in the last, since the pandemic started, we've already run up another, 175 places.
That makes a lot of sense. The growth during the pandemic makes so much sense to me, because obviously you touched on it. Listen, there's a gambling element to trading, of course. You said that's sort of culturally Chinese, but people sitting at home with nothing to do, and they can't, and even the gamblers can't find things to gamble on. Sports. Right. Like sports were gone. And so, of course, they find this. But what I find really interesting is that, you sort of touched on E-Trade and all these platforms. There have always been platforms where you could trade, but that's not really what you guys do, right? You're obviously offering an ability to chart and find trades and find information. And through APIs, you can trade on exchanges, but you're not an exchange. So those really aren't your competitors. You have to actually find people not only who want to invest or trade money, but you have to find the ones that care enough to actually go and chart and seek that information. So I just find it still astounding that there's that many people out there. It's great. Yeah, I think it's so good for all of us.
Yeah. And one thing to think about that people don't really know. So we do integrate a lot of these trading firms, and we're kind of just getting started in that. It's like an initiative that they actually brought me on to kind of launch 2 years ago. And broadly speaking, a lot of web trading firms, like, whether it's a TradeStation or a Oanda, they actually are deprioritizing their own platforms because they actually think that TradingView will be the number one place that people trade from. And so we started as kind of a research and analysis product, but then quickly we're actually shifting into being like the full service.
Yeah.
We'll never be a broker ourselves, and it's kind of like against our thesis. But if we can actually provide trading through these, best in class partners, boom, it's everything you need, right?
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop for everything. But I think a huge element of it is the social aspect, right? It's a social media platform as well as a trading platform. And so obviously it keeps, I would imagine, users engaged. It keeps them on the site. It keeps them interacting with one another, as opposed to just kind of coming and looking at a blank slate, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing is, brokers are inherently limited in what they can do from a regulatory standpoint or compliance standpoint. So like you'd never see TD Ameritrade, launch a social network, right? But because we are kind of this, market neutral platform, you could basically take the training wheels off. People chat, all day, every day. And, they're also sharing kind of investment ideas or kind of longer form research. But, we kind of make it a very open framework so that there's no requirement to you have to talk about, this as an investment or, this as a trading idea. It's kind of just like come and hang out. And people, make it what they will. Some people are, in there, trading a specific commodity every day. And it's like a little niche. And then other people are looking at, general market trends or news or what have you. As well as that, there's millions of different types of traders. And so we try to kind of keep it as open as possible so that people can find their little thing and then just nerd out on that until they're white and get off the computer.
It's like for a lot of us, it's sort of like our equivalent of adult video games or something. Certainly, it's just kind of where you hang out and play. But I'm just laughing in my head because I remember, I don't know now, but in 2017, the biggest trader on TradingView was like Magic Poop Cannon.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to just laugh and wonder how that was possible, and how we could take our space seriously when the Magic Poop Cannon was the most popular trader. But I guess that's what happens, obviously, with the social aspect, is that you get sort of the YouTuber types who are great at engagement, who rise to the top, whether they're the best or not the best, but that's the social side and not necessarily the trading side. And it's not financial advice, obviously, but
but it's a good point. And, I think working in kind of social networks for a while now, I mean, I can tell you there's an element of power law to all of the internet, right? I mean, unfortunately, the way it works is, the person with the largest megaphone gets the most traction, right? And that's kind of the natural state of the internet, right? I mean, I always look to Reddit because it's the most distributed, but you quickly realize that Reddit is actually, 10% of the users generate more than 90% of the content.
Pareto principle, yeah.
And that's general power law. And so we were very much trying to shift that away from kind of these, power users to be more kind of level-headed, if you will. And there is kind of a value in this element of discovery as well, because, much like, I don't know if you use Spotify, but for me, like the discover feature in Spotify is kind of like the golden ticket, because, otherwise I would just operate in this lens of this is the music I like. But in fact, Spotify uses a bunch of different algorithms, more than 5, in fact, that all compound on each other to understand what music do you like, what music do your friends like. Is there some kind of cascading overlap there? If you have that in kind of combination with other musicians, they'll give you kind of recommendations. And so we actually think that, from a trading perspective, you have a trading style, this person has a trading style. We could actually start generating these interesting overlaps between various parties, rather than having it just be, this guy posts the most hilarious charts, therefore, he's going to get the most engagement, which is
magic poop can. but that's such an interesting comparison. Spotify, obviously, like my background is in DJing, and so I watched music discovery evolve from literally like you had to have a guy at the record store who like it was late 90s for me. So I had a friend at the record store, and every week he would pull the stuff he thought I liked and put it aside for me. I would listen to it and I would buy whatever I wanted. And then obviously slowly we got to MP3s, and it became like iTunes, but more music blogs. And you would dig into music blogs, the ones you liked that sort of had your taste, and you would find the music you liked and then go try to find it. Spotify destroyed all of that. Right. And Spotify understands my musical taste better than I do. So you guys are effectively hacking our brains just like Spotify are, and giving us exactly what we want before we know we want it. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the goal. That's
the goal. And thinking about a platform and like what our purpose is, I think that, trying to help people learn more about themselves is kind of an interesting thing that, most people wouldn't think that, a trading platform would focus on. But again, that's what kind of differentiates us from, just like a broker or a media website, is we're trying to make this personal. And to be honest, I mean, as well as I do, I mean, like trading is kind of a lonely sport, right? And so if we make it, somewhat collaborative, right? Like it's more of an interactive game, multiplayer, right? That's the way I think of it is, how can we do multiplayer? Then yeah, we've served our purpose. We're not just giving you, sick charts. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that.
Charts are sick though. And like, I found one of the most engaging things early about you, because I think I can't remember the name of the other platform, Coinigy, maybe, that I tried, something like that. And like, it was so much less customizable and didn't have sort of those social aspects. And it immediately turned me off. And I immediately was drawn to TradingView because I could change the colors of my charts and do all these things. It's just like, you really understood what people wanted. And I even find being able to differentiate the color of my charts differentiates me as a trader, and people recognize my charts on Twitter. It's been a huge thing for engagement and growth. So even those simple things, I think, but I think it all leads back here now to community development, which I think you have a long history of, I understand. And I know that you mentioned the Andreessen Horowitz theme, and I'm curious as to what that is when it refers to community development.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting one. I was talking about this on Twitter the other day. It's really funny if you tap into like VC Twitter, how quickly people want to engage with you, because either they're a VC themselves or they basically want to attract the attention of the various VCs.
They need money.
Yeah, the spectrum. Either you're looking for money or you have. So I was talking about how it's really interesting that Andreessen, which is, kind of the darling of Silicon Valley, has, most recently, launched this huge kind of profile on how social is kind of the hidden gem for all successful products in modern technology. And, how there's like layers around a given product that create moats that make it really hard to displace. And I thought it was, a great piece in the sense that if Andreessen's taking this seriously, it's like a huge validator for the last, 8 or so years of my life. But it's really interesting because, before my time at TradingView, I worked at a company called StockTwits, which very much was basically chat for traders. And that was the core purpose. And we at the time didn't really understand what we were building. We were just kind of creating a cool place for people to hang out and talk about stocks. But the value of networks and kind of communities built around anything, music is a great example because, I always think of the SoundCloud community and how it's insane the amount of content that people are commenting, are, posting mixtapes or recutting other people's music, et cetera. And if SoundCloud didn't have those social features, would you even hang out on SoundCloud? It's
nope.
So in the same way, it seems kind of totally distinctly different businesses, but actually you realize the social layer is kind of the core differentiator between success and failures. And
interesting.
For finance specifically, I think that a lot of people just approach it like best in class tools and that's all. But really, what you want is that personal validation. And kind of, to be honest, what I call is like a support network, because we know in the trading world, there's success and then there's failure, and surviving those downturns is kind of the most important part of anybody's journey in investing. And so if you have a group that you can coalesce with, and to be honest, at StockTwits, we covered say U.S. companies specifically, but if somebody was trading like a small cap and literally got blown up, there would immediately be a network of people that also got blown out of the water. Yeah. And they basically coalesce around that and talk about how I'm going to make it, I'm going to survive. And, a lot of them are like absolute bag holders, but the fact that they had somebody to chat to about that was kind of a really, interesting nuance, right? Because before that, you just blow up and then you close your fucking account and
in crypto we call them passionate community members, right? You start as a trader, then you become an investor, then you become a passionate community member when it goes down 95% and you're afraid to sell. SoundCloud's another amazing corollary for what you guys do. My whole career was SoundCloud. Wow. As a musician, right? Because you were able, like you said, to get this feedback loop. You would post something, people would comment, you knew it was good, you'd make more like it, you'd see it grow. And the death of my music career was when SoundCloud removed my account for copyright infringement, right? Mm-hmm. So, it was very much I was very much the counterparty risk.
That's your whole brand, right? It's built into that network, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, and I can see, and I always joke that the reason I love charts so much is it reminds me of being in Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools, kind of like the same hacks and the same sort of, you're just, staring at a screen and moving things around. And so for me, it's just very familiar. And thinking about what you guys do in SoundCloud now, it makes so much sense. I just never really thought about it in context. So it's so interesting for you to put it that way.
Yep. No, and the thing is, so most of the team here, I'd love to have you just chat with the CEO at some point too, but most of the team here comes from very much a technology heavy background. Before this, they actually built the core technology for a company called eSignal, which was a big broker back in the day. They also worked for TradeStation for a long time, building the core coding software for TradeStation, very in the weeds stuff that is essential for traders, but they approach it purely from kind of a technology standpoint. Whereas when I joined, I came from the social world, and I actually brought over one of my close friends to work with us as well from the social side of things. And the combination is pretty incredible because they have, we have 170 developers now, and they are constantly cranking out incredible product. But now they see it not just as a single player game, but a multiplayer game. And that's kind of, I think, what we really bring to the table is kind of, enlightening them to the fact that this is actually like a collaborative software. And you mentioned like Pro Tools or something like that. Back in the day when I was a journalist, the standard in the industry was, what's it called? It's like a production software. Final Cut Pro, but the Avid is the one I'm thinking of. So Avid in television production, which is
you needed the whole board. It was like it was like a full station, and then Final Cut obviously just needed your computer, and it destroyed Avid. I mean, an Avid setup was like tens of thousands of dollars. Sick of paying ridiculous fees to trade crypto? It's time you try Voyager. It's hands down my favorite place to buy and trade crypto, and is 100% commission free. Voyager gives you easy access to more than 50 top crypto assets, and you can instantly transfer cash from your bank account, so you never miss a trading opportunity. Even better, you can now automatically earn interest on your crypto holdings. Currently, they're offering up to 6.5 APR on Bitcoin and up to 9.5% on USDC. Yes, you heard that correctly, up to 9.5%. And there are no limits or lockups, which means your funds always stay liquid. Find out why so many people are making the switch to Voyager. Visit investvoyager.com or search for Voyager on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and get $25 in free Bitcoin when you use the promo code SCOTT25. That's SCOTT25. Sovryn is an uncensorable, no KYC Bitcoin trading and lending platform and one of the very first Bitcoin native DeFi platforms. Finally, start trading your Bitcoin in a permissionless and decentralized way today just by connecting your private wallet. Earn interest on your Bitcoin and get paid for lending assets via the Sovryn decentralized exchange. Get up to 5 times leverage on long and short trades using USDT, BTC, and Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, all with no KYC and always maintaining control of your keys. Sovryn is one of the safest DeFi platforms on the market, built on the RSK Bitcoin sidechain, with block times are around 30 seconds and are merge mined with the Bitcoin blockchain. Join today and get your first month's trading fees completely free. Just go to sovryn.app/wolf. And if you're one of the first 100, you can claim a $100 bonus. Go to sovryn.app/wolf today and stay sovereign. Once again, that's sovryn.app/WOLF.
Yeah, but the reason Avid still exists is that it's multiplayer, and that's the inside of production studios. It's super necessary to have these multiplayer software so that you can produce a piece and then ship it to another part of the team. They bring it in, color correct it, they send it off to production, but it's all done inside of this Avid platform. I think it's the same probably with like the Adobe products. It started with single player, and then you can start sharing it and stuff like that. So yeah, that multiplayer is kind of what we've been focused on now. And obviously we're refining the core charts all the time, but building that multiplayer layer has been a pretty cool project to work on. And it's amazing to do it at the scale that we're doing it at too, because we got to build multiplayer for Japan. We got to build multiplayer for China, for Indonesia, for who knew that the Philippines was such a hot place for trading, but dude, it's huge. It's enormous.
Dollar and a dream, man. It's anywhere that people think that they can have a disproportionate chance to get wealthy with a little bit of money, they're wrong. But that's where you generally find it. And you touched on StockTwits. I know you were there for years, and I know Howard Lindzen is like a very famous hedge fund manager, investor, right? And that's his thing. So I have to ask, were you into finance before this, or is that where you really kind of, got your training in finance, working for someone as legendary as that, and then also engaging with traders probably all day because of your role? Yeah.
Well, Howard discovered me because of my previous work in finance and in the space. Funny enough, we actually met on Twitter, which just shows the power of social networks again. But I kid you not, literally we met on Twitter. And, when I was in college, obviously, being a young budding entrepreneur, I thought, okay, well, I can trade my way out of student debt and managed to blow myself up twice. Learned a lot of lessons, and obviously, trading on a small enough account that, it didn't kind of wipe me out completely. Right. Here I am today. But no, as a result, I was pretty early on Twitter, kind of, again, looking for interesting trading ideas. And as a result, I talked to Howard probably 2009, 2010, right after the financial crisis, which is when StockTwits was really being born. And, I went a different route than actually, going straight into the investing world. I became a reporter. I basically wanted to report on the industry more than actually being a market participant myself. And so, I kind of had a background in it. I'd done it all through school. I was actually the founder of our television station at my college campus.
Nice.
And, but yeah, so it was always interesting to me, but I never really had the guts to like step into the ring and like, do that full time or go work at an investment bank. It just didn't really strike me as something that I was really capable of, to be honest. And reporting, and writing is much more of like a consuming process. You're just like pulling in all this information. And then the job really is just to consolidate that into a tight format, which seemed easier at the time. And that's kind of what I did for working at Reuters and working at a couple other publications. But at some point in time, I was really thinking about it and looking at the long term of a job like Reuters. You basically sit at the same desk until the person next to you dies. At the end of the day, like the only way you grow up in a company like that is when somebody retires or leaves for another job. And so I was kind of thinking high level, like, all right, well, I could do this for another 10 years, just grinding away, which is what really good reporters do. They really love just writing and that's it. But I kind of thought, I wanted to do something a little more, dynamic and see how fast I could grow. And so being the first employee at StockTwits in New York back in 2012. It was a great opportunity. And, I'm hugely indebted to Howard for that because I had no kind of business background. And he said, give it a shot, see what you can do. And, that company now is also still booming. They have, 45 people. They're doing great revenues. I'm still an investor, of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a great one, but yeah.
So you tried trading, and you blew up your account a couple of times. And I know the answer to this, but do you remember what you blew it up on and what the mistake was that you made?
Yeah, this is really funny, actually, and super timely. Tesla and Solar City.
Solar City. Oh my God, what a train wreck.
Yeah, what a train wreck. How funny that time horizon, right? Like it comes down to, what are you doing trying to pick up pennies in front of a steamroller? I definitely thought that the active trader approach was right for me. But it's a full-time job. And, I was at the time like doing other jobs and having side hustles and, also living in beautiful California, not really having the motivation to just do this day in, day out. It's a system, it's a process. It is. You got to be super vigilant about it. And yes, over time I've evolved into more kind of like a momentum kind of investor, but to be day in, day out, just, click trading and looking for those levels and making that repeatable. I definitely blew myself up on Tesla. And
were you were you shorting it or you were just way too early and stopping out?
Yeah, way too early, playing earnings and basically, just playing intraday levels. The charts back in the day were TradeStation charts. I remember having the downloadable software, which to me is like still amazing to think that we would, download these huge softwares to run locally versus run everything in the web. Basically putting on position trades and looking for, a 0.5% uptick or downtick and then take profit, move on.
You were scalping the hell out of it.
Yeah. So, I remember.
Imagine if you had just left all that money in Tesla 10 years ago.
My good friend kind of, his dad actually put in 40 grand when they IPO'd and hasn't sold a dollar of it. And, so retirement fund is just there whenever.
Yeah, now his kids have a trust fund and his kids' kids have a trust fund. Congrats. It's so crazy. We all have, anyone who's traded looks back and sees these assets that have done 1,000 times or whatever since and has that feeling, but it's impossible to really maintain any sort of positive mentality if you view trading that way.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, whatever. At least I didn't put in my entire net worth, right? So here we are today. I mean, this year's been incredible, on a personal note, just for investing, but I think it is for everybody, right? I mean, it seems delusional how I actually know something's wrong in the markets when I'm doing really well. I feel definitely something's
very suspicious.
But yeah, I mean, same with the crypto world. I mean, I remember we actually invited Fred Wilson to speak at this Stockfits conference back in, it was called Stocktoberfest. I kid you not, literally. It actually made no sense because it was in May. Well, we initially had one in October, so that did make sense. But then we launched a sequel in New York in May, and it was big, flashy conference. We spent ridiculous amounts of money on the space. Somehow I managed to squeeze water out of the rock, and we made a profit on it. But it was a huge waste of cash. I've never kind of done that scale of event before, and never do it again.
In New York,
in New York alone, yeah, exactly. So Fred came to speak. He's a longtime friend of Howard's, and he had just actually made his investment in Coinbase. And so he, got on stage. He's very kind of nimble about talking specifically about, a specific asset, right? Whether it's, at the time, it was basically Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. That was it, really. And so he said, I really can't say where things are going to go or anything like that, but I can tell you that, 5% of your net wealth in one of these assets is the best way to just at least approach the market and learn about it. And I mean, wow. I mean, what a kind of foresight. So, I mean, I watched, that, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I bought it. And then that summer, I mean, we had this huge fallout. So from 2017 all the way down to, in 2018, it was trading at less than 4,000 or something like that.
Yeah, but here we are now. That's all irrelevant. Water under the bridge.
Water under the bridge.
If you're an investor, it never happened. That's the beauty of being an investor, is it, probably just gave you an opportunity to buy some cheaper before it went up. So if you talk about the Coinbase IPO, I got an email from one of my good friends yesterday who was friends with Brian Armstrong way back and had an opportunity to invest in Coinbase for $10,000 in, I think, 2012 when it was coming out of Y Combinator. And my friend was just like, I didn't understand it, whatever. And I mean, my friend is very level-headed. I got this email from him yesterday that was just a string of bad words. It was $21 million at IPO on $10,000. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a moron. But that's the same thing. It's that same feeling that you were there early and then, but $10,000 was a whole lot of money back then.
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah.
But I think, clearly everybody has a story like that. So I want to ask you, is TradingView, you guys are so huge, is it primarily crypto traders, or is that just crypto traders who think it's primarily crypto traders?
Well, I think about it like this. I actually do think that the majority of the crypto world is on TradingView, but really the crypto world is still small. I mean, on a relative basis, right? So you got to think about kind of the larger spectrum of kind of traders and investors. So today, the way we look at it is we basically analyze what's on somebody's watch list on TradingView, and then use that as inference to, how focused are they on crypto or futures or Forex or equities. So right now, about 35% of the audience is crypto first. And that's really their dominant asset. That's what they trade the most. That's what they're watching every day. These are the type of people that sign in and then look at, spreads between different coins or, look at intraday charts, et cetera, all, kind of with the interest of trading the asset. And, but yeah, I mean, so that leaves another 2/3 of the network for equities and FX. And equities is still the dominant player, but I mean, it's really interesting because in certain markets, something like the Philippines as an example, almost all of them are trading FX and crypto. Whereas, in the US, it's predominantly an equities industry. And therefore, the majority of our traffic is going to be equities oriented. But yeah, I mean, and then, for Europe, they love FX. They haven't even really discovered, crypto comparatively, which I think is really interesting when you start to think about, some of these big players that have been there forever, like Kraken, Bitstamp, et cetera. I mean, huge, kind of in the US at least, but still relatively kind of unheard of. And yeah, so I mean, if we do see kind of that growth, I'd expect crypto will definitely grow a lot more. But yeah, I mean, still a small piece of the puzzle.
I would bet that number flips in 3 years. 66% crypto.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm gonna mark it down and do one of those remind me tweets now, and like to remind me that I said this.
I'll do that for sure. Just to see where it goes.
Scott said my business will be 2/3 crypto.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Price action, I'll tell you, like, yeah, what a fucking idiot. No, but the price action, I mean, we definitely do see, I do really want to kind of build an indicator for this, but crypto interest this fall is obviously skyrocketing, right? So on a relative basis, crypto is 30%, but in terms of like the recent boom, yeah, I mean, it's huge and really started in mid-October. I mean, I think it had to do a lot with the election, people kind of being very unsure, what's going to happen and not wanting to risk money elsewhere. And so just putting money to work in crypto just so that either they can, ride it out or relatively speaking, trade through it. But a lot of that interest hasn't gone away. And so, I mean, I would assume that if price action continues at the rate we're currently trending at, yeah, you might be, I guess, surprised. It
might be in 3 months.
Yeah. It could literally be a couple of months away. But yeah, so it really just depends on price action overall. I do think DeFi also helped a lot. I don't know what you say. I mean,
helped then hurt, but yeah. Helped hurt and helped again, maybe. I think, obviously there was a bubble, but now it's rising from the ashes like a scam phoenix that it is.
I mean, every chart that I pull up from like the whole DeFi summer, it's just this giant line up and giant line down. Like
so, crypto is like 1 year in crypto is 10 years in any other market.
Yeah.
And 1 year in DeFi is like it's like the same. So then 1 year in crypto, it's like 1 month in DeFi. So I talk about that all the time. The life cycle of a DeFi project, an ICO used to at least take a couple months before it would like be charting and trading on exchanges. People could have an idea for a food coin. It could be built 24 hours later, trading on a major exchange like Binance, 48 hours later, up 100x and down back to 0 in a week.
Yeah.
And that's the whole life cycle of an asset in any other market.
So insane. Yeah, I can't imagine.
So let me ask you then, how do you deal with that sort of velocity? I mean, by the time you can add a chart, it might be a dead asset, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with keeping up with something like DeFi?
Yeah. So, I mean, broadly speaking, we actually look to the biggest players in the exchange side of things to be the providers of record for a lot of that. And so we kind of give it to them to kind of choose as to what they think. So a good example is FTX actually.
Of course.
We integrate data feeds from FTX. And so as a result, we integrate the feeds that FTX provides around DeFi. Likewise for Uniswap, we integrated Uniswap directly, but really only the top 100 coins because we really kind of have to be careful about, like some of these things literally blow up within less than 24 hours, right?
Yeah, full rug pull.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, when literally rug pull is like in the white paper, you gotta be really careful as to what you're
promoting. Need good timing. Get really rich. You just gotta be there before. Yeah, it's really crazy. And I assumed that FTX was going to be your example. I talked to Sam Bankman-Fried recently on the podcast, and we talked about that. And he said like their real edge is that they're a tight team. Their developers are committed, and they can have something listed and trading with leverage within 20 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, and I do appreciate the speed. It just it really comes down to the choices that they're making, and we think really that since they're regulated, as is most of the exchanges, they probably have a better sense of what's what's legit in their mindset. And for the most part, we try to work with companies that are regulated in the US specifically because they have kind of the highest bar of kind of regulatory standards. So
sure.
Maybe we can't offer all these crazy coins, but to be honest, we have some kind of sense of what's safe and leave the other 99% of it for whatever other platforms are trying to, coming from the equities world, I could tell you it mirrors exactly the low floats and kind of OTC products.
Sure.
And it StockTwits, we never listed any of that. At TradingView, we don't list any of that because, it's the exact same way that people blow themselves up. It's just a different asset class, and the speed.
They make for great memes, though. Make for great memes and very funny charts. But yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I agree. You can't really do it. So I realized you guys just released at least a beta of a desktop app, which I have not tried yet, but I'm really excited about. Can you talk about that a little more? And what was the motivation for, going from, I guess, browser based to desktop?
Yeah. Well, it's a really kind of, it's an awesome upgrade that I'm excited for. And, it's funny that it's gone full circle where, back in the day, there were desktop products, then everything went to the web. We were the first ones to build HTML charts for the web, HTML5 charts for the web. And now here we are going full circle back to the desktop. The biggest thing that we've seen is people that really want the advanced use case of TradingView, which is multiple monitors, multiple screens, and running, upwards of 15 to 20 charts at a time. And, memory on a given browser CPU, if you use Brave, if you use Chrome, if you use, Safari, ultimately you're gonna wreck yourself, or part of the web experience is gonna start hanging, and ultimately you'll hit limitations. And we realized that, and so we thought, okay, for the real professional, if you will, that wants to have all these multiple monitors and screens, etc. We can really take the training wheels off and give you the whole experience. And it's in beta right now. So, if you go to the blog, you can download the beta version, but it's obviously quite limited. It'll start including a lot more features that you already see on the web. But yeah, it's a big upgrade. In terms of our engineering team, it's probably our most, what would you call that? Most aggressive, high performance engineering team that's working on this. So to give you a sense of where it is from a priority standpoint, it's a very, very high priority. And I love it so far. I've barely used kind of what it's capable of, but I only have 2 monitors in my house. I don't know how many you run yours, but
there's 2. Yeah, that's it. I just use 2. It's a Mac and an ancillary screen. And honestly, most of the time, it's one screen is for trading and one is email and Twitter and all the other trash. People bothering me.
DM, I got to ask, how did you come about the whole DM thing? I think it's so incredible because it's just the state of the industry that happens to you. It happens to everybody.
Sure.
It's so good that you just turn it around on itself.
It's an interesting question. So I don't think that there was so much thought behind it. I just thought that maybe it would be valuable, as much as it's funny, it would be valuable to share sort of what kind of interaction people can tend to get privately, especially if you're doxxed in this space, and that there's some risk. But also, I think that a lot of people in crypto are younger and probably are extremely sensitive, like any of us were in our 20s, and they probably take those things to heart. So I thought that maybe it would be helpful to just sort of make light of it. It would maybe disarm the trolling a bit, because it becomes so almost people now troll me because they think it's funny and know that it might get turned around on them. And B, just to show people that
don't take
it's not it's not like a statement of your value as a human being because some idiot is saying something negative. So it just sort of evolved from there. And I thought it was A, good content, B, like I said, a good way to disarm the trolls, and C, just hopefully a life lesson for people that none of this matters. None of that matters. It's not serious. These people don't know you, and you kind of have to grow up, I guess, and be an adult to take that position on it. But And honestly, now I just open my DMs and like I die laughing. I turned it from like being for me, like the most horrible part of my day is, oh, maybe I'll look at my DMs today. It's like 9,000 messages, sir, money, please. And now it's just like, I like go in there and just laugh at the things that people say to me. So, but yeah. And again, I think that's, it's that social element. It's the community. And I think that it could, if you can make something negative into a positive, same thing you probably take with your business is just keep the positivity and the community growing and people will continue to interact.
Yeah. And we have a global moderation team now. I don't think people know, but it's about 25 or so folks around the world. And, they basically pick apart a lot of this stuff every day because community development is both positive and negative, right? It's not always people sharing, great memes and life is all good. I mean, people go after each other, and especially when there's like money on the line, right? It gets super personal. So it's very important that we, keep vigilant on that because, trolls will just, continue to troll. And, we're routinely banning people every day. And a lot of it is also sharing or kind of limiting trading ideas that might be kind of, misleading or misrepresentative.
How do you do that? Like, what is the quality filter? Is it like a dude in a room?
Yeah. So a lot of times you can reverse engineer who the person is and then understand their intent. And so a lot of people have like premium Telegram channels or are promoting a specific type of company or a specific type of, coin as an example. And they inherently go into a conversation with that bias. And so our team looks at who the individual is, where do they actually come from? And then, tries to figure out, is this person doing this for the right reasons, basically? And a lot of, as you can imagine, like these low float companies or low float stocks or low float equities or low float tokens or what have you. I mean, those are all kind of ripe for, wrecking, early investors who don't know what they're doing. So we do a lot of kind of analysis on that. But from purely like a trading standpoint, we're pretty hands off as long as it's clear that, you are, sharing your bias, obviously saying that you are an investor or that, you are positioned for this thing to, be successful over a specific time range. We really try to have people like take it seriously. And if they do, then, go for it. Talk about whatever you want. But
so you filter out bad intent, not shitty chart ideas.
Yeah.
Just because you drew the worst pattern ever and your lines are all in the wrong places, that's on you, buddy, and up to someone else to recognize.
Yeah, you're going to get trolled by the community more than by us, and that's just not good at sharing charts. So yeah.
So at what point do you become literally the only place that people come to talk about trading? Like, when does Twitter become irrelevant because everybody's on TradingView and chatting?
I mean, it's a really interesting one. It's even working at Stockwoods for 5 years. We asked ourselves that question a lot too. I don't really know if there's like a switching point. I think that the thing is people really entrench in a network, and any successful social network has these, not just hooks, but they build moats. And Twitter's moat is the network that people have already built there, right? So not only do you follow, Pomp and XYZ and all these other people, I mean, like they also follow you. So that's naturally building that moat around what you've already built. So it really requires a kind of critical mass of people to actually invest in the product. And then, that'll actually kick off a lot of different, nuanced conversations. But we really don't, I guess, condone one or the other. I mean, we know that we're really good at technology. The fact that social is a part of that is for some people and not for others. And that's perfectly fine. I think that, we've thought a lot about actually integrating Twitter or integrating Discord or integrating Telegram, because we know full well that, everybody on there is also in a it's amazing to me how many people have Telegram channels. Like it's literally mind blowing. I have no idea how they evolve so fast, but yeah.
And it's such a suboptimal platform for what they're using it for. Like, yes, I want to sign into Telegram and see 9,000 missed messages and then go try to see. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me as well, because it's sort of like,
It's really not a full experience. Yeah. So we thought about a lot. Like, do we want to build the only experience, or do we want to kind of be the open framework where you can build in your own experiences? And so we're very much working through that. But I mean, in terms of people sharing charts, I mean, people share our charts across every network, and pretty much any Telegram channel that I'm in, there ends up being TradingView charts in there.
Oh yeah.
Same on Twitter.
I've never seen a chart that's not TradingView, unless it's at this point. Like I used to see Coinbase, is that what it was called? I don't even know, but I used to see their charts in like 2017. Yeah. I've never seen a chart that's not TradingView, unless it's just an asset that's not on TradingView, and it's one of those garbage TradingView copy platforms like chartrx.gov.org crap, like whatever. You have to, but otherwise it's all TradingView.
Yeah.
There's nobody else.
For sure. And, I mean, we're also integrating our charts to every other site too. So I don't know if you ever use like a Binance or a Bitpanda or anything like that.
Yeah, it's your charts.
They're also our charts. Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's awesome. So then before I know we're here, but what are the next, 5 years look like at TradingView? Like, I know the desktop is a huge push, but what's the biggest thing that we're going to see? Am I going to think of a chart and it's going to send my order off, and I'm going to stop out before I've even decided, that I thought of it?
Plug it into your neck.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Immediately upload it and then download it. I mean, broadly speaking, we're constantly, what I think of TradingView really is a rough cut gem. And I don't know if you saw the movie, but it's also,
oh my God, that movie, I'm still stressed.
Still stressed literally the entire time. But I think of TradingView as a rough cut gem. I mean, they have really good technology. They have a really good DNA. You have a really good culture. And broadly speaking, the best thing that we can do is just amplify that. So I don't even really think we have to reinvent the wheel. It's just about scaling that to the nth degree. There's a lot that we could do for the data world. And, I've been in the kind of fintech space, specifically in trading tech for almost 8 years now. I could tell you that the number of monopolies there are in the data world that basically restrict access to data, make it impossible to get, it's like a constant battle. And I think that the best thing that we can do is break down those barriers so that people can get access to as much data as possible and for as least as possible. So we have some big stuff coming in the first quarter around that. But I really do think that any kind of data you can imagine, chances are we'll probably chart it at some point in time. And so anything that people have, like from a request standpoint, obviously reach out to us because we're constantly adding it. We have a whole.
I was looking at your coronavirus charts at one point.
Yeah, exactly. And we thought about, okay, well, we could do coronavirus. I mean, we might as well do let's do Spanish flu. I don't know. We could literally chart all these things if we wanted to. So that's a big goal, I think, is just, again, democratization of as much data as possible. And then beyond that, I mean, we're doing more than just charts. And I think that's a big thing to keep in mind is that, if you really invest in the platform, you'll realize our screener tools are getting pretty intense. We have awesome. Another completely new tool that'll be launching in Q1 as well. It's just a different way to visualize data by asset class and type. But yeah, so I think it's like the core, the kernel is there. Now it's just kind of growing around that in a bigger way. And yeah, and then, obviously we're an open book, so we're always interested in feedback. So yeah, folks like yourself
I bother your team all the time.
Yeah. Free ideas. Send them over, Scott. Get them over. Yeah.
Usually I don't think they like me, but I bother them all the time. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So where can people keep up with you after this, follow you and follow you guys' progress?
Yeah. Follow TradingView anywhere. Myself, I actually have my original Twitter handle is from when I was in college. I just never changed it, but it's Crosby Venture. And I actually thought about I'll start a venture firm someday, but I left it because maybe I will someday. So people can follow me, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. But yeah, tune into TradingView. We just launched live streams, so people are watching those all day. And it's awesome. The best way to follow us.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. You're arguably the most fundamental platform that I use on a daily basis. I mean, I don't even know how to look, but I bet I have 3,000 charts saved.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah.
Easily. I have to, because I chart things for newsletter subscribers and people on Twitter all the time. I mean, I've charted probably half the stuff on that platform. It's incredible. So I love it. It's the first thing I check, when I sit down at my desk, and the last thing I check before I shut down. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have coming in the future. And I love this chat. So we're going to do this again. So I want to cross 50% crypto attrition so that I can say that I was right, or it'll be 66% for me to be right. But
we're upcoming, so we can schedule ahead of time.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, and have a good one.
See you, Scott.